Welcome to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm delighted to say I am joined by former Scotland international and current Bradford City manager Graham Alexander. Graham, thank you for joining us.
No problem at all.
Let's get straight into it. Up until this season, you held the record for the most goals scored by a British defender. Recently, James Tavernier has taken that record off you. How did that make you feel when you heard the news?
I knew it was coming at some point. I think there was a table put up at the start of this season about high scores defenders in the world. Someone sent it me a few years ago that I was on that list of the top 10, which there was always one name to spoil the list. But I saw James on there, and with him being in such close proximity to me, and the success Rangers have and how many games they win and how many goals he scores, I knew it was probably going to fall at one point and potentially this season. So I'm just proud of myself to be a part of that sort of group, and I think anyone on that list deserves it. So fair play to James.
You've obviously seen James play. What qualities does he have that you admire?
He has fantastic technique. I saw the penalty he scored at the weekend, and big pressure penalty in the derby, and it was a fantastic finish right in the top corner. I think you have to have a lot of confidence. He's a really good physical, athletic player, which allows him to get into those forward areas. I know a lot of his goals will be from penalties and set pieces, but that was the same with me for a lot of the time. But he has the natural athleticism to play in the modern game as a fullback, joining in the attacks, getting back to defend. But it's his technique and his belief really that probably has got him on that list.
You obviously mentioned the kind of free kicks and penalties that you both scored a number of. Tell me about the kind of skill and the practice that it takes to be a successful set-piece specialist.
Practice is the biggest thing, really. It's okay being confident and believing in your own ability, but along the way, I'm sure James will say this himself, I had a lot of competition for set pieces at the various clubs I played for, and obviously at international level. Unfortunately, didn't manage to score for Scotland, which is still a bugbear of mine. But I think you have to be confident in yourself. You have to practice. I think that's one of the most the biggest aspects of it that I would speak to younger players. I still speak to the players that I manage it here, that it doesn't just happen. The whatever skill and technique that you excel at, or any player excels at, there has to be a work ethic attached to it. So for me, I constantly practice my penalties. I found it was a big responsibility for my team to take on board, and I didn't want to let anybody down. That was the first thought in my head. The free kicks, I didn't. I took them sporadically throughout my career, to be fair, because there was other good technicians, and free kicks can be sort of shared about between team members. So I wouldn't say I was constantly on them, but certainly the penalties from about the age of 26, 27, that's when I was probably the designated penalty taker for the two clubs that I played for after that point.
Can I ask you, when you're standing over a penalty kick, you're about to take it, do you have a secret or a thing you have to do that will then be a successful penalty?
Look, it's not a secret, and it's and nothing guarantees it. But for me, and it's an age-old sort of conversation that people talk about before tournaments and so forth, that you cannot replicate the pressure of a match day and when taking your penalty. And I do understand that. I do agree with that point, but to take the penalty in those situations, I think you have to have confidence and a real strong focus, and I think that's where your practice comes into it. So for me, I completely mentally shut down as soon as that penalty was given in a game, and I just went straight into my practice and my training. That was it. I didn't think about how big that, and this was over time, I didn't think how big that particular penalty was or should be, what it meant in the game. I just completely shut myself off from everything and focused on what I'd practiced the day before and many days before that. I always knew which way my penalty would go. The day before the game, I would practice that penalty over and over again without a goalkeeper to make sure I got the technique right. My sort of approach was to put it in a place that even if the keeper went the right way, he still wouldn't save it. So I didn't practice with a goalkeeper for that purpose. I knew whether a penalty would go in, regardless of the goalkeeper the day before. And then I just tried to stick with that. I wasn't 100% successful. I had a reasonably good record, but it didn't guarantee it, but it did prepare me in the best possible way.
You played obviously over 1,000 games in your career. It took you until 41 years old to hang up your boots. Would you have any kind of advice for someone like James Tavernier as to how to have such a successful long career?
No. I think it's down to each player's desire to play that long. Really, to be honest, I think it's depending on injuries, because obviously injuries can happen to anybody. I was really fortunate on that side of it, but I did discipline myself and sacrifice and work exceptionally hard to keep a good level of fitness to compete with all those young pups that were flying around trying to take my shirt all those times. But it would be down to James. Listen, we all need the fortune, like I said, about injuries. But if James wants to play that long, he knows he's an experienced professional. You see the shape he's in now. He's in fantastic shape. So it'll just be down to his desire. I don't think there's any advice that I can impart on him. I think he knows how to be a top professional. It just comes down to whether he wants to do it as long as he possibly can. I did. I didn't want to retire. I love playing and training every single day. So for me, I didn't see any reasonable point to look at retirement until I got to that point. My body started failing a little bit. And I didn't really want to become a player that I never was during my career and be sitting on the bench or being in a treatment room. So I made the decision to retire at the age of 40, and I was content with that.
After your playing days, you went into a managerial career, currently at Bradford, but one of your clubs was Motherwell. They're currently now hoping to make it into the top 6. How big could that be for Stuart Kettlewell and this current side to make it?
It's a big thing. I think most of those clubs, you get your big 5 or 6 that are expected to get there, and that's that's their target. Their target's probably higher, but for other clubs, including Motherwell, getting into the top 6 is a real big sort of target. When I got there in the January, we were joint bottom, and it was just to survive in the SPL, and which we managed to do. And then in the summer, it was a similar target. It was to stay in the SPL, but if we could improve and compete for that top 6, that would be fantastic, because of obviously they didn't want to be in another relegation fight, but also the revenue from those games against the bigger clubs at the top end was really important for Motherwell, and we managed to do that a few years ago, which was a great achievement. And I think it's gone down to the wire again. I think obviously Dundee have to pick up a point, don't they, in the last 2 games to make sure of it, but that's difficult. And it's a straight shootout then between Motherwell and Hibs if that's the case, if Dundee don't pick up those points. And it was sort of similar to how we got in. We got down to the last game, the 33rd game, and it was against Livingston away. We were 2-0 down, and they were in the top 6, and then we managed to score 2 goals. The equaliser coming in with 20 seconds to go, and we knocked them out of the top 6 and took our place in it. But we deserved it, because we'd been in there for the majority of the season. I think we weren't in the top 6 for maybe 5 or 6 weeks, but it's a big thing for a club like Motherwell, because the challenge against the bigger clubs with the bigger finances is always there. So if they do it, it'll be a great achievement for Stuart and his boys. Just
a couple of things before we finish. You obviously made 40 appearances for Scotland. What do you make of Steve Clarke, and what do you rate their chances this summer at the Euros?
Yeah, look, he's 2 tournaments. Going into the second one is a brilliant achievement. I think obviously Steve will have ambitions of going one step further, which Scotland never managed to do, and get out of the group stage and go into those knockout phases. I think that's the next potential step for Scotland, and we know how tough it is in tournaments. But after such a long period, I played for 7 years for Scotland, 40 caps, and unfortunately it was in that gap between the tournaments, so I missed out on that, unfortunately. But I went to the England-Scotland game in the last Euros, which was great, me and my dad. So that was fantastic, and to be part of the Tartan Army that day was great. I got a taste of the other side of it, not on the pitch but in the stands, and it was a great occasion. I think I think they're going to go there and enjoy it, but I know as a professional, you want to try and win and achieve more than what's gone on before. And what Steve's done is galvanised everybody. I think he's earned the time to create almost a club mentality within the squad, and it's paid dividends. I think we've got some real quality players in that group. I think there's a real togetherness which Scotland always need. So, fingers crossed they go one step further than any other Scotland team has done before.
Finally, Graham, your current managerial role at Bradford, they find themselves mid-table in League Two. How are you finding that, and what are your short-term and long-term goals for Bradford?
Yeah, it's a real big club at the level we're at. I think there's 17,000, 18,000 season ticket holders, at Bradford City in League Two. So it's a phenomenal backing that we have. There's big pressure on us not being in League Two. I think the club's been in League Two for the last 5 years now, and tried hard to get out of it. And that's when we came in, I think we were 18th, but we sort of had a real good period. I think we won 6 games on the bounce when we first went in, which was the first time since, I think, 1984 or something. We got to the EFL Trophy semi-final, which they'd never done before. But unfortunately, we've just had some difficult moments that have just put us out of reach of the playoffs at the moment. But, next season, the challenge for us is to compete at the top end without a shadow of a doubt. It's, we've had discussions with the owner recently, and it's a big summer for us to recruit the right players to obviously be at the top end of this division. But there's a lot of competition. There's some really big clubs at this level, and some big finance, as you see with the big, Wrexham, Stockport, Notts County. There's a lot in there, and but we have to give as good as we got. So it's a club that has good ambition, and I'm really enjoying the job. I've only been there 5 months, but I've been welcomed really well, and I'm loving my day-to-day work. It's a little bit similar to Motherwell, the same colours, the only 2 clubs with the same colours in British football. So it feels quite comfortable for me.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Graham, for joining us on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel, and all the best for the rest of the season.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for watching. For all of this content and very much more, join us on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel, across our social media sites, and don't forget to download our newest app.